I'm joined now by two absolutely amazing young individuals. They're both half my age and they've done twice as much in their lifetime than I have ever or will ever achieve. I'm joined by Zara Rutherford and Travis Ludlow, who have both circumnavigated the world in their airplane solo and are world record holders because of it. Good afternoon, guys. How are you both doing?
Hello.
Hello, good to talk to you.
So I guess we'll start at the start and ask how you guys get into flying. So let's go to you first, Travis. What sort of first got you into the flying bug?
Yeah, well, I've always loved flying, and my family knew this, and so my godmother actually bought me a trial gliding flight on my 12th birthday. From there, I was just hooked, and I just loved it. I was flying as much as I can. I eventually flew solo in the glider on my 14th birthday, and continued on from there, where I completed my PPL and my instrument rating when I was 17. Just had a blast from there. The rest is history.
Wow. And what about you, Zara? How did you come from an aviation family? How did you get into aviation?
I did, yeah. So my parents are pilots, so I'm really lucky to have them, and I just when they were flying, I thought that is so cool. I want to do it too. Started training for my microlight license when I was 15, and decided I was going to fly around the world at 18.
Wow. And was it your parents that encouraged and inspired you to plan your trip, or was it that you just decided to be a trailblazer yourself?
So I kind of told them I phoned my dad up. I was at school at the time. I said, "Hey, I think I want to fly around the world," and he was pretty excited. When I told my mom, I waited a few days to tell my mom. When I told her, she wasn't quite as excited. But then once I got the plane and the route, I was able to convince her that it was pretty safe, and there wasn't too much to worry about.
And what about you, Travis? What inspired you to set off on your trip?
Yeah, well, I come from a non-aviation background. No one in my family flies, but I used to just have a pile of magazines next to my bed, and just about aviation. And eventually, I read a book called "Wings Around the World" by Polly Vatcher, and she flew around the world quite a few years ago. That's what gave me the idea. I told my parents years ago about what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly around the world, and originally they just went, yeah, yeah, right. Eventually, after all these things I was doing with flying, going solo on my 14th birthday and getting my PPL, they started taking notice, and they eventually came on board. But it took a lot of convincing from my mum as well. So just like Zara, we had our mums definitely cared a lot about us.
You were originally meant to fly back in 2020, is that right? And then COVID struck. Just tell us about what happened with the delay and how you went about planning your trip.
Yeah, so the original plan was actually for me to fly around the world in 2020 at the age of 17 and beat the world record by over a year, and beating it at 17 years old. But of course, COVID got in the way, which did alter my plans. But really, it was actually more of a blessing than a curse, as it allowed me to get a lot more flying experience, a much better aircraft, and allowed just me to meet loads more people and get loads more connections to make this this trip a reality. So it definitely helped me out a lot.
Amazing. And Zara, I saw some of your footage, and there is a picture where you're flying over an extremely dark red desert that just ends at one point.
Yeah, that's probably the most like the best video I took. That was over the Saudi Arabian desert. It was incredible. I was actually trying to spot the camels from the air. So how we have, farms with like cows, they have farms with hundreds of camels, which I thought was really cool and just gorgeous. And it changed so much. So south, it's like sand dunes, and further north, it looks a lot more like Jordan. So it's like rock formations, and it's in those kinds of places where they'll film Star Wars and well, Dune, for example. So that was really cool.
When you were on the ground, where was your favorite place that you got to stay and be hosted, Travis?
Yeah, probably my favorite place to be hosted is actually a place in Manila, in Russia, and it's absolutely it was a completely unplanned part of the trip. It's a tiny settlement. There's no roads. The only way to get there is by helicopter, and no one spoke a word of English. And I just they were just so nice. They donated me some fish and a loaf of bread, and and that was my dinner for the night, and just absolutely incredible to stay there. So yeah, Russia is definitely one of my favorite places to have visited.
Wow. I bet you've had some really, really strange meals on your travels. What about you, Zara? What's the strangest meal that you've had on your travels?
Actually, funnily enough, I can relate to Travis so much on this. I landed in Ayan, same thing, only accessible by air, small community, almost nobody spoke English, and I also received fish and a loaf of bread, which was
Really?
pretty funny. Yeah, otherwise, the weirdest meals, I got a moose. I got moose in Alaska, and I was offered whale blubber, but that didn't happen in the end.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be my cup of tea at all. And I'm guessing you must have both had some scary moments on your travels around the world. So, Zara, anything that sticks in your mind is one of the scarier moments?
I was quite lucky. I never had a moment when I like genuinely sort of felt afraid. I did get a little bit too close to thunderstorms at some points. And otherwise, as I was flying into to South Korea and I was trying to avoid North Korean airspace, I had the impression there was a line of cloud that was gonna like cut me off. And I was flying VFR, so I can't fly into cloud. And I had to briefly consider whether I should fly into North Korean airspace. But that was a pretty
Wow.
quick no.
Yeah, that's a quick decision you had to make at that point, I'm sure. And what about you, Travis? Have you, I mean, you must have had thunderstorms to avoid as well, but anything else that sticks in your mind as being particularly scary?
Yeah, well, so I had an instrument rating, so I could fly into IMC, but I definitely had actually some really heart pounding moments. The biggest lesson I learned really from the around the world trip is to not fly over the Rocky Mountains in the middle of the night. I was flying along over the Montana Rockies, and I noticed my airspeed was beginning to drop, and I turned off the autopilot and grabbed control of the yoke, and I was having to maintain my altitude in order to keep the nose up in order to maintain my altitude. And eventually, I was forced to descend, otherwise the plane would have stalled. And I actually dropped about 2,000 feet in 30 seconds.
Wow.
But as a pilot, you're taught to aviate, navigate, communicate. So I turned around. I flew in the opposite direction and was radar vectored out of there. And this was all at 1 a.m. at night over the Rockies,
Oh
which
my
in
God.
pitch black. So it was terrifying, but an amazing experience, and it definitely and that was a mountain wave I flew through, and so definitely not something you want to fly through in a Cessna 172.
Well, it's obviously you're both laughing as you're telling these stories, so they haven't put you off. So I guess what's next? Have you got any plans, Travis, for another adventure coming up?
Yeah, well, I love electric aircraft. I love sustainable aircraft. Whether it is electricity or hydrogen. And my dream is to go to a university and to study something like aerospace engineering, something like that, and become involved in some sort of electric aircraft, sustainable aircraft development program, or be a test pilot or an ambassador for whatever company. And my dream is to eventually one day fly around the world and break the world record with the first person to fly around the world in a fully electric or sustainable aircraft. It could be electric, could be hydrogen.
Oh, what a dream and what a vision to have. And when you do, you'll have to come and tell us all about it. And Zara, I
Absolutely.
believe your little brother has set off in his travels as well, and he's trying to do a similar challenge.
He has, yeah. So he right now is in Kenya, and he's doing great. Yeah, he's doing great, and he's really enjoying it. So I'm really happy that he's got that opportunity as well. That the sponsors helping him out as well is just really special.
Well, he's had an absolutely awesome big sister to inspire him, hasn't he? And hopefully give him some advice on his travels and in his planning. Guys, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you both this evening. This afternoon. You've been absolutely amazing and absolutely inspirational to so many of our viewers. We've got gliders at Blackbush at Aerobility, so you'll have to come along someday and have a go and meet some of our flyers as well and inspire them in person. But thank you. It's been
Sounds
absolutely
good.
wonderful chatting to you both and fly safe.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.